Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News. Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew has broken his silence over the controversy surrounding his Minister of Accessibility, Nahani Fontaine. For the past week, Fontaine has been criticized for a comment she made about an American Sign Language interpreter following an event celebrating Indigenous women graduates. Fontaine has issued 2 apologies on social media since APTN News first reported on her comments. However, there have been calls for her resignation, including another one from the opposition party today. Now the Winnipeg Free Press is reporting that Premier Kinew is defending Fontaine. According to the Free Press, Kinew said, quote, "Our minister has apologized and is putting in the work with the community. So it's with the greatest of humility that I want to ask folks in the deaf community to keep working with her." Over the past week, APTN News has repeatedly asked the province for a comment or an interview with Minister Fontaine, but we've received no response. A First Nation in Northern Ontario held a peaceful protest this week over what it says was an undemocratic process that led to 2 economic development bills becoming law. The Netmizaaggamig Nishnaabeg First Nation is located about 350 kilometers northwest of Sault Ste. Marie. Band members held a peaceful demonstration on the Trans-Canada Highway from Monday to Thursday, slowing traffic down to about 50 kilometers an hour. Was done to make people aware of the community's opposition to Ontario's Bill 5 and the federal government's Bill C5. Chief Louis Quisawa says both bills violate inherent First Nations rights.
There has been an undemocratic process. It's been rushed and no consultation with First Nations. So that right there, that violates Section 35 right off the hop. Which is our Aboriginal rights in the Canadian Constitution.
As wildfire evacuees begin to return home, a Saskatchewan MLA is urging the provincial government to do more for northern residents forced to leave their communities. Many of the 15,000 northern evacuees have come home to find fridges and freezers full of spoiled food after power outages caused by the fires. Jordan McPhail represents the northern riding of Cumberland for the NDP. He says that Sask Power, as a Crown corporation, has a responsibility to help families who lost hundreds of dollars worth of food because of the fires. Sask Power says they have paused collections, stopped disconnections, and are offering interest-free payment plans for affected customers. McPhail says that's not enough.
Going into wildfire and evacuation processes and whatnot in northern Saskatchewan, a provincial government has a role to play in that with the SPSA. And I think that if you ask the northern people how that's gone so far this year, there's a lot of work that the government needs to do to make this right.
A First Nation in British Columbia just got a large part of their traditional territory back. And as APTN's Tina House reports, it's an opportunity for the nation to save old-growth forests and heritage sites.
The day started out with a ride in the Sea to Sky gondola to the summit, where traditional songs and drumming greeted guests at this special event. Squamish Nation leaders, elders, and community members celebrated the signing of the documents that signifies a new relationship between the nation and the province of British Columbia, as they can now protect over 20,000 hectares of land within their traditional territory. And with their traditional territory that extends from North Vancouver to further up in the valley to Howe Sound to small islands, Wilson Williams says this is a major win for them and their future generations.
It's the equivalent to 50 Stanley Parks. Included in that area are more than 30 new Siyaman Squamish cultural sites and 6 new special cultural management areas. These areas will be managed to protect old-growth cedar, culturally modified trees, and critical habitats. The agreement also includes provisions for future work on the shoreline and marine areas within our territory.
BC's Minister of Forests, Ravi Parmar, says he is honored to be part of this historic agreement.
This agreement is years in the making and builds upon previous agreements in 2017 and 2007 that will guide forest stewardship in this beautiful territory. And it sets the stage for further discussions around land use planning and provides certainty around when and where forestry activities can occur while protecting important Indigenous cultural values.
Kelseelam is the chair of the Squamish Nation. He says this agreement has spiritual significance as well.
We have very few places that we can call our own within our territory to practice our spiritual beliefs and our cultural practices. And we have to stand together as Squamish people to protect those areas so that our people, not just today, but future generations will be able to experience the gifts that our ancestors had for us, to be able to bathe in those creeks, to have a relationship with those mountains, to be in those forests, to harvest our medicines and our tools and the things that have sustained us.
Tina House, APTN National News, Squamish.
Well, with the fire season settling down in parts of the country, British Columbia has now become a major hotspot. There are currently 375 wildfires burning across the province, with the majority being called out of control. Last month, the Dryden Creek wildfire that threatened the small town of Squamish is now classified as under control. However, in Hope, a wildfire that started a few days ago is being considered out of control due to the steep terrain. And in Lytton, which was devastated by a wildfire that destroyed most of the town in 2021, a new fire started last week, but it is across the river. And in Chase, the Nishnaabeg First Nation evacuated its members due to another fire, but the order has now been classified as in evacuation alert. Well, we're always looking for your feedback or story ideas. Here's how you can continue the conversation with us. If you have a story you'd like to share, you can send us an email to news@aptn.ca. To read and watch our stories, you can go to our website, aptnnews.ca. You can also find us online on your favorite social media sites, including TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, and X. Follow APTN News to join the conversation and see our latest stories. Time for a quick break. Still to come tonight, we'll tell you about a Mi'kmaq birch bark canoe maker and his thoughts on it becoming a lost tradition.
So we're getting to the point, and I don't see the disease leaving the tree. Once the disease is in the tree, it'll die in the tree. So it'll never go back to being smooth bark again.
Welcome back to the East Coast now, where Todd Labrador is a practicing Mi'kmaq traditional birch bark canoe maker in southwestern Nova Scotia. But the birch trees he uses are dying and the bark is no longer usable. However, Labrador has enough bark from last year to make one last Mi'kmaq birch bark canoe. Angel Moore reports.
That was over 5 years ago. Todd Labrador and his family harvested a birch tree to make a canoe, a tradition that's been in the Labrador family for generations. That may soon end because Labrador says this summer the bark is no longer usable. The inner bark is filled with growths that make holes in the bark.
So we're getting to the point, and I don't see the disease leaving the tree. Once the disease is in the tree, it'll die in the tree. So it'll never go back to being smooth bark again. The next generation, which will be long after I'm gone, if it's healthy enough, but if this disease continues, I don't know what will happen. Yeah. So.
The Labrador family's traditional lands are now the Nishnaabeg National Park and Historic Site. He is a member of the Acadia First Nation. For over 10 years, Labrador has shared his knowledge to park visitors at his workshop in the park. Brian Zwed is on holiday. He traveled from the U.S. state of Virginia to learn about Indigenous culture.
It's really difficult to find information about Indigenous people, and I read a little bit about the Mi'kmaq before I came here, but then I saw that Todd Labrador was going to do this demonstration, so it became a really easy to come here and learn something about the Mi'kmaq tribe.
However, Labrador says the workshops may end. He says for the last 15 years, the bark has been too dry and the trees are starting to die. The inner bark is full of lumps, which Labrador thinks might be a fungus infection.
But I always thought clear-cut logging would be the one to cause the end, but it's not clear-cut logging. It's some kind of disease that's causing this. I don't know what the disease is caused by or what it's from. I don't know. But it would be interesting for some scientists to look at it and say this is what it is.
Labrador has enough bark harvested from last year to make one last canoe, but right now he's working on this one in his workshop. He uses trees that are about 8 inches in diameter, which take about 100 years to grow. He says if the bark trees are gone, his family tradition will be lost forever.
It's important, like canoe building was almost lost and then it's sort of been revived, but without bark we can't build birch bark canoes, Canoe is an important part of our culture because, it was our vehicle.
Parks Canada was not available for an interview, but said in a statement to APTN News they do not know why the birch trees are dying, but are working with the Mi'kmaq to develop a conservation action plan. Angel Moore, APTN National News, Nishnaabeg National Park, Nova Scotia.
Well, there is no limit to the creativity of our youth. And the charity in Quebec celebrates that by giving 5 to 17-year-olds a chance to build their own little companies and on one day every year market their business. Kim Sullivan traveled to a small Indigenous Quebec community for a little discovery and a little shopping.
C'est la grande journée des petits entrepreneurs!
The 12th edition of La Grande Journée des Petits Entrepreneurs, which translates to the big day for little entrepreneurs, was held across the province of Quebec and showcased hundreds of companies created by 5 to 17-year-old kids. This initiative by Quebec charity Petits Entrepreneurs, Little Entrepreneurs, aims to inspire and awaken school-age youth to entrepreneurship.
Bonjour, ça c'est du slime, des attache-cap, puis ça c'est des lanières de téléphone.
For about 40 children from the First Nation of Mastayache and its neighbors in Roberval, this was not only a day to showcase their creations, but also one that highlighted the concept of reconciliation. Together, Indigenous and non-Indigenous youth held an open-air market to sell their goods.
C'est un des objectifs, en fait, c'est de mêler les deux nations parce qu'on est proches, on est voisins.
This initiative not only aims to inspire youth to explore entrepreneurship, but also raise awareness about the importance of hard work and effort in earning money.
C'est à partir du jeune âge qu'on développe notre potentiel d'entrepreneur, puis je trouve ça important de les encourager.
However, it's not as simple as just selling their creations. These youth spend months preparing for this.
Les inscriptions commencent en février. Il faut choisir son nom, il faut commencer à penser qu'est-ce qu'on va créer, il faut commencer à penser combien ça va coûter. Fait que c'est vraiment une démarche là, pour eux autres là, de fabriquer puis de créer leur entreprise.
This is 8-year-old Zach Boilly's third year in the program.
Ça, c'est 5 $, ça, c'est 3 $.
Just like for a real startup, waiting for customers can sometimes be frustrating.
Oui, au début, j'étais découragée, je voyais pas beaucoup de clients.
Puis maintenant?
Maintenant, il y en a quand même qui viennent.
According to Zach, an important aspect when selling our creations is
Avoir un air joyeux.
statistics from the charity show that 99.6% of the children surveyed in 2024 wish to participate again in 2025. That was the case for brothers William and Thomas Langlois, now in their 9th year of participation. William bakes dog biscuits, Thomas creates fire starters. The hardest part, according to them, is the amount of time required to start a business.
Moi, je trouve que c'est surtout le temps. Les fois, c'est sûr que c'est assez long, puis c'est ça, c'est le fun, mais c'est long.
So why participate year after year? These kids are not just creative, but honest too.
Pour gagner de l'argent puis s'acheter des cochonneries.
Nina Bussum has 4 children in the big day for little entrepreneurs.
4 enfants, 2 kiosques. Ils ont un kiosque à l'intérieur, ils vendent des œuvres d'art qu'ils ont faites avec des appliqués en fait là, avec les fleurs à motifs autochtones de ma mère. Puis à l'extérieur là, ils vendent des plants de framboisier puis des plants de cèdre. Là.
Yes, good job, les garçons. For her and the other parents, having their children take part in an event like this is about more than just making money.
2 mini-entreprises, ça leur permettait de voir avec les toiles qu'il y avait un certain achat de base à faire pour pouvoir produire. Puis de l'autre côté, ben, avec les plants de framboisier, ben là, il n'y a pas de coût initial à l'entreprise. Fait qu'ils ont vraiment les 2 modèles d'entreprise qu'ils peuvent faire. Là. Ça leur apprend à être autonome, à faire des calculs. Ça leur apprend un paquet d'affaires de notions d'école, mais d'une façon détournée. Puis des fois, ben, ils apprennent encore mieux de cette façon-là.
Kaylee Collin and Aurélie Marchand were inspired by their aunt, owner of Machishu Creations and recipient of the Outstanding Indigenous Woman Entrepreneur Award at the 2025 International Indigenous Tourism Conference, for their jewelry and blueberry lemonade business, Ilnu Minisha.
Ouais, c'est quand même inspirant. Quand j'entre dans sa boutique, je suis quand même impressionnée. Fait que j'essaie d'être comme elle un peu.
Maybe one day she will be. What happens next is unknown, but for now, one thing is clear. These youth from Mastayache and Roberval successfully hosted a vibrant market showcasing their goods. This 12th edition of the Big Day for Little Entrepreneurs was a resounding success here.
J'ai déjà magasiné quand même pas mal.
Kim Sullivan, APTN National News, First Nation of Mastayache.
Super cute. Thanks for that, Kim. Wondering how much you spent while you were out there. Time for one last break. Still to come, though. The Under-18 Indigenous Football Cup kicked off in Winnipeg today. We'll tell you all about it after the break.
We're really getting more towards like Indigenous people in sports, and this is just a huge good event put on by huge sponsor the Bombers, all the CFL teams that support us, all our sponsors. This is huge.
Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. And Joachim shared with all of us an early spring from the Northwest Territories. A stunning view. Thanks for sharing. Send us your photos this weekend to share@aptn.ca. And then tune in each day to see if you're our next photo of the day. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Starting on the East Coast, 24 in Halifax, showers, and 25 in Fredericton. Cloudy and 21 in Kuujjuaq, 16 in Nain. 26 with showers in Montreal, 22 and rain in Val-d'Or. 23 with showers in Sault Ste. Marie, 28 and rain in Ottawa. 25 in Thunder Bay, rain, and 23 in Sioux Lookout. Showers and 22 in Thompson, God's Lake, and Norway House. Sun's out and 27 in Winnipeg, Brandon, and Dauphin. 26 and sunny in Regina, Saskatoon, and North Battleford. 25 and sunny in Meadow Lake, cloudy, and 24 in La Ronge. Cloudy across much of northern Alberta, 24 in High Level, Fort Chipewyan, and Fort McMurray. 26 and cloudy for Edmonton and Calgary. Sunny and 25 in Vancouver, 34 under sunny skies in Kamloops. 25 and cloudy in Prince George, 24 in Smithers. 16 in Old Crow, cloudy, and 20 in Whitehorse. 22 in Yellowknife, 25 in Norman Wells. 9 in Sax Harbor, 14 for Paulatuck. 16 in Chesterfield, 19 in Arviat. 3 in Resolute, 7 in Aglulik. The Under-18 Indigenous Football Cup kicked off in Winnipeg on Thursday, bringing players from Alberta, Saskatchewan, Northern Ontario, and Manitoba to the field. The first day saw Alberta winning 62-7 against Northwestern Ontario, and Manitoba winning 42-6 against Saskatchewan. Sierra Bettens brings you to the action.
Manitoba, we're the king of the prairies, you know. Like this is our they're coming to our home, so we're gonna show up.
It's game day at the St. Vital Mustangs field in South Winnipeg. 2 hours before kickoff, players from Team Manitoba break a smudge. It's the team's second time competing in the U18 Indigenous Football Cup, which started 3 years ago. Ben Waters is Red River Métis and a quarterback.
We're really getting more towards like Indigenous people in sports, and this is just a huge good event put on by huge sponsor the Bombers, all the CFL teams that support us, all our sponsors. This is huge.
This year, the tournament brings Indigenous players from Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and Northwestern Ontario to the field. Defensive back Trenton Bourassa plays for Techvolk High School in Winnipeg and is a member of the Opaskwayak Cree Nation in northwestern Manitoba.
It's definitely awesome, you know, brings everyone together from all sorts of communities, and we're all here together, united as one.
Team Manitoba head coach Russell Wallace says the tournament is made possible by generous sponsors. The Winnipeg Football Club covered travel, uniforms, accommodation, and coach certification for Team Manitoba and Northwestern Ontario.
They're a big component of why we're here, and a big reason we are here, because they do knock down that financial barrier that some of our players do see, that kind of keep them out of football, because football is an expensive sport.
After the first game wrapped up, with Alberta winning 62-7 against Northwestern Ontario, players from all 4 teams lined up for the grand entry, carrying flags from their communities. An honor song and a prayer welcomed them onto the field. Then, Team Manitoba blew out Saskatchewan with a 42-6 victory. It's a win Waters hopes will put the players and the tournament on the map.
These guys are all putting out the hard work every day out here for how many weeks now to try and be the best in the nation, right? Even though there's only 4 provinces out here, you know, it's still best in the nation out of the teams that are here. So I hope everyone just kind of we get recognized, you know, and people look into Indigenous sports more.
A cultural celebration takes place on Friday evening, and the tournament continues Sunday. Northwestern Ontario will play Saskatchewan and Alberta will take on Manitoba for the Cup. Sierra Bettens, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Some future stars there, no doubt. Well, that's all the time we have for your APTN National News on this Friday, July the 4th. You can catch up on all the week's news right here tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Eastern Time on APTN National News Weekend. There's also more over on our website, aptnnews.ca. Now stick around, Kim Sullivan is up next with your French language news. I'm Dennis Ward, Marcy McGuitch. Thanks for being with us. Have a great night.